Welcome back to another Pokemon What If Wednesday, where every Wednesday morning we go through last week's investing and collecting questions, where your guys' questions will actually be featured in the video, and one person's question will help me make the thumbnail every single week. So please drop your questions down below for a chance to be in next week's video. And if I did comment to you saying great question, I might use this, and I didn't, please drop that same question again and put repeat question, and we'll get moved to the top. And if it was super long, maybe shorten it up a little bit. And I'm not saying I'm some guru who just knows everything, but when I'm unsure, I always like to talk it out with a few people. It always helps me make my final decision. But before we get started, we do have to give a big thanks to our video sponsor real quick, and that is Platinum Protectors. I constantly get asked on what they should use for protecting your sealed ETBs and booster boxes and stuff, and Platinum Protectors has got you covered. They literally have cases for action figures, comic books, diecast, Funko Pops, trading cards, and video games. And when it comes to trading cards, they have so many. They even have a ton of new ones. They got the booster bundles in, both sizes. They got all the UPCs. They even have the Celebrations Pokemon Center ETB case. And you can get the cheaper cases where you get 20 of them for $40. They're UV and scratch resistant, or you can get the nicer ones with the thick magnetic top, you know, if you're really trying to ball out and show off your collection. And then two, you can use PokeBeard at checkout and you receive 10% off your first order of $50 or more. Definitely check them out. All the links are in the description. But all right, first question is from Matt the Fish MC1. Hey Beard, I have a lot of megas. When will be the best time to sell? Best wishes from Austria. Yeah, the megas are going crazy right now because we're going to get a bunch of mega sets. So in my opinion, you know, the next set is going to be like the Mega Lucario set. That'd be a good time to sell like the actual Mega Lucario cards. Then the next set after that is going to be a Mega Charizard set. Then that would be a good time to sell your Mega Charizard cards. So don't sell them all right now for sure, and just sell some when each set comes out. I think we're also getting a Mega Rayquaza set. I'm not 100% sure on that. You know, wait to sell your Mega Rayquazas when that set comes out. I just seen someone sell an entire Mega collection on eBay, which I bidded on. I did not win. I fell asleep actually. But yeah, a lot of people are selling these a little bit too early, in my opinion. At least wait until that first mega set comes out, at the very least. All right, next question, which is kind of a similar question. It's from @BreakingBad7. Hey, Lieutenant Beard. These beard names are getting hilarious. I just recently got an order back from PSA, and one was the Gengar and Mimikyu 53 out of 181 in a PSA 10. Bought it raw at a local card show for $125 back in April. Very nice. Seeing some recent sales on eBay over $1,000, was wondering if you'd recommend holding on to it. Trading for singles or trading for sealed. I want to put the money back into Pokemon somehow, as I'm not really just looking to get cash for it, but would love to hear your input. Thanks, man. Love the videos. Keep up the great work. So that is a super cool card. That is an Arita art. We got Gengar and Mimikyu on a tag team. Very popular. It is non-textured. And to be honest, it's not that tough to grade. There's 1,322 in a 10 and 1,375 in a 9, 549 in an 8. When cards go crazy like this, there's 1,000 people out there that just hunt every clean copy to try to get it graded. So if I had to guess, there's probably another few thousand of these at PSA right now. So you have to keep that in mind. A card being not super tough to grade, a bunch at PSA right now, and let's say the market cools off, this card could definitely come down in price a little bit. But right now, it's just going up. So definitely ride the wave. Never sell early. You know, at least wait till it levels out for like a few weeks in a row, maybe even a month. Or, you know, for it to come down in price a tiny bit. But me personally, I'm a hoarder, so I just like to keep everything. But it is a good idea to sell some of the stuff that has gone crazy to reinvest into some other things. And I would definitely reinvest into sealed products or like super cool cards like this that, you know, people aren't really talking about, or maybe like low pop number cards. But sealed is definitely the safest. And this card, you know, last sales is 1,225 at a 10, 1,500 before that, which is just crazy. We got a couple more at like 12, 1,300. So definitely, you know, just keep watching this. I do feel like this is a solid card to sell. You know, give it another month or two or whatever it is once it completely levels out. But tag teams are on fire right now. Next question is from Edgar Angel 8381. Been looking at the Chinese cards. I was going to buy a Captain Pikachu for PC a while back when it was like $350, $390. But the PSA 10 prices just keep going up. Do you think I should pull the trigger or wait for the end of summer? Last sold for authentic was like 700 plus. I don't want to FOMO, but in love with the card, to be honest. Love the vids, by the way. So super tough for me to answer these because we don't really know, because these cards just came out and the Chinese market is still so new. So all I can really say is it all depends on reprints. We don't know how often the Chinese side is going to be reprinting these sets because they are trying to catch up right now. They're pretty far behind. So in my opinion, I have a feeling they're not going to be reprinting these sets like crazy. I just feel like if they're so far behind, it's going to be so tough to, you know, reprint every single set multiple times. And when it comes to the exclusive Japanese Pikachu cards, the ones where like Pikachu is dressed up as something to where it's like, you know, it has a different name where it's like something Pikachu, they all do super, super well. So like I said, it is super tough to answer these. You know, I don't want you to buy this and let's say it comes down in price because they get a massive reprint in 6 months, because that's a definite possibility. So it's totally up to you. Plus, like I said, it's just so brand new. We don't really know how it's going to do. But in my opinion, everybody always screams they just love the art. They don't care about the language. So there's no reason why the Chinese Pokemon market shouldn't be just as popular as the Japanese Pokemon market. So I feel like there is a decent chance for this card to keep going crazy. Like I said, if there is a massive reprint, this card will come down. If we don't get any reprints of this set, I have a feeling this card will stay very expensive. Next is from at 3J Spangle, Grandmaster Beard. I recently bought the sealed Black Star promo Pikachu 012 and Meow 013 that came from the 2003 EX tin. Do you think the best long-term play would be to keep it sealed or to open and grade the cards? I paid around $100 for the sealed pack. Thank you for your wisdom. So let's check out some PSA 10 sales. We got the Meowth here. Last sold in a PSA 10 is $215 with a pop of $278 in the 10, $392 in a 9. But we're on alt, so probably has a pop of $350 in a 10. And then here's the Pikachu. Obviously worth a lot more. Last sold $865. With a pop of $377 in a 10, $828 in a 9, and $629 in an 8. So it's definitely not super easy to grade, but if you're looking at the front of the promos and the corners look super nice and everything looks pretty well centered, I feel like it might be worth it. And then also, it's not like you lose all the value when you take them out of the package. You know, they're still worth a decent amount. But like I said, if it looks clean from the front, it might be worth it. It just depends on if you're a gambling man or not. Next is from at Crown TCG. I have the Umbreon EX SAR from Trestle Festival in a PSA 10 that I pulled and graded myself. I was wondering if I should sell it because it's been dropping pretty much since release. So here is the Umbreon with a pop of 37,544 in a 10. You got to think, these cards are not tough to pull at all on the Trestle Festival side compared to, you know, Prismatic Evolutions. So the height for this card was $783 in a PSA 10. It's been slowly falling. Last sold $526, which is actually pretty high for that card. Before that, $477, $415, $425, $435. So since it is such a common card and, you know, just on the Japanese side, so it's super easy to grade, I feel like you could definitely sell this card and buy it back, you know, a few months from now for cheaper. Next is from at Soda Cards. Thoughts on the Stained Glass Birds promo raising in price. So this card has gone crazy. In my opinion, you know, it's already coming down in price. If we go to the 1 month, it got to $127. Now last sold $113, $115, $110. I have a feeling it'll come back down to maybe like $60, $75. It is a super cool card, but what's funny is no one ever talked about this card until it went absolutely crazy. This is definitely one of my all-time favorite ETB promos, though. It is super cool. People just got, you know, sick of it because we had Hidden Fates reprinted so many different times, so... But if we look at the 1 year, like I said, you know, it was a $15 card. But yeah, I could definitely see this thing, you know, $50 to like $80 maybe. I would not be buying these at $100 something unless it is perfectly centered and super clean. So that'd be the only possible way. And then you got to think too, there's probably another 1,000 of these at PSA right now. Next is from at TJ Bartlemus. Hey Beard, what do you think about investing in a PSA 10 of the Charizard VMAX from the Charizard UPC? In my opinion, it is the best Charizard VMAX of the Sword and Shield era and is underrated. It is an alternate art Charizard, has a lower pop in a 10. It could have easily been the chase in any of the Sword and Shield sets. So I do agree it is the best VMAX Charizard for sure. It's not my favorite of the 3 promos, but for VMAXs, it's not even close. So it does have a pop of 8,881 in a 10, but the pop in a 9 is 17,352, and for an 8, 4,247. So it's definitely a tougher card to grade. Looks like the low was about $65 in a PSA 10 of June of 2024. Now last sold in the 10 is $350, $312, $289, $265. So if you can get this card in the mid 200s, I think that's a solid pickup, to be honest. It is a super cool Charizard card, and you know, there's a decent amount, but it's definitely tough to grade compared to some of these other modern cards. And I totally agree, it is a super cool, unique card. I like all of the Charizard promos in that UPC in a PSA 10. But alright, next is from at Googug2277. Hey Beard, I recently just picked up 2 sealed copies of the Shaman EX promo from the Generations ETB for $65 each. I believe it was the first ever ETB promo, and with how expensive the Generations ETB is getting, I'd be surprised if any more hit the market. Do you see Generations or Celebrations cards doing better during the 30th anniversary, and was this a good pickup? Definitely. A lot of people, you know, they're only talking about Celebrations, but Generations will also go a little bit crazier once we hit the 30th anniversary. It is an anniversary set. So Generations will for sure move. It is a super cool Shaman card, got a crazy low pop, I couldn't even find a PSA 10 sale for it, to be honest, but I love this card for sure. And I feel like if you got 2 super clean copies at that price, that's not terrible. So last sold on PokeData is 35, 30, 32, 40, 55, 68, 49. It all depends on condition, of course. Plus, you said yours are sealed, which is super cool. But yeah, I'm a big fan, especially, these older promos are just so cool. And I have a feeling this card will go up more once we hit the 30th. Next is from @Jiggy Collects. What if Wednesday question? I have a PSA 10 Japanese XY Hoopa promo that I picked up for $180, and the listings on eBay are going kind of crazy, all above $1,200. Should I hold it long term? And would you see this card rising even more in value? The pop in a 10 is relatively low, and the card is really cool, especially with all the Pokemon it has featured on it. I love this card. I've talked about this card many, many times. Last sold on eBay is $1,000. $1,292, best offer accepted. $1,150. We got an $850, but that was in June. Look at this. In December, this is when we were buying this card. Sold for $150. And then we got tons of sales over $1,000. We even have a sale down here at $1,450. So these Japanese exclusive cards like this, where it has, a bunch of awesome Pokemon in there, are super cool, and they go crazy. So like the first couple questions, definitely ride the wave. So cards like this can get very expensive, and not to mention we have megas in the card. So at least wait for some mega sets if you're going to be doing anything. But I'm holding on to mine for a very long time, to be honest. All right, next question is from @WeGaming765. New viewer recently. Question about vintage cards that are PSA 8 or lower. Just got my Nidoking Crystal from Aquapolis graded, came back a 7. Are there any market movements in older cards graded 8 or lower? Yeah, I would say 7 and up for sure. And then, 6s, 5s, and 4s, they're kind of in their own thing, and then everything else below. And then PSA 1s is their entirely own market. But yeah, 7s and up, they can definitely have some movement for sure. I'll sell 100 7s and 8s before I sell one PSA 10 of an older vintage card, just because 7s, they're super good to crack out of the slabs and put them in the binders. And a lot of people do that with 8s. I do it with 8s and 9s all the time. And then an 8 or a 9 for like an older vintage grail card is a solid card to display. It's completely different than like modern grades and stuff. Next is from @Taystar5352. Repeat. Will you do a room tour? Would love to see your collection room. So I will do a standalone room tour video, but I'll give you guys a little sneak peek right now. So for my sealed stuff, I just like to fill up this shelf and the ledge. And once it gets full, I like to fill up totes and I bring it to my storage unit. 90% of all my sealed stuff is at my storage unit. I'm very OCD. So I love to fill up totes of like one of each thing. So like a tote of Beard Evolving Skies or Celebrations or, Scarlet and Violet booster boxes or whatever it is. So most of my sealed stuff is in storage. And then my super high-end binders and cards are also in storage just so I don't mess with them every day. But I'll give you a little quick sneak peek of this room, and then I'll give you a quick sneak peek of my living room downstairs where I keep, more collectibles and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Next is from @KyleThompson2539. Where do you get your life-size Pokemon figures you feature in the background? Love the content. So his name on Instagram is Danny Paintbrush. Definitely give him a follow on Instagram, and he will do custom work for you. He is very, very affordable, and it honestly does not take that long. He's located in Florida, so if you live in Florida, it'd be much easier, obviously, but he will ship and stuff. He does very solid work. Very, very nice guy. I actually hooked him up with TCA Gaming, another big Pokemon YouTuber, and he is having him make a ton of stuff. Like, it was life-changing for him. So definitely hit him up if you guys want anything made. Next question is from @Red-Haired:. Hey Beard, what's your top 3 Pokemon movies? So Pokemon, the first movie, is such a good movie. I still cry to this day. And then Pokemon 2000, the Lugia is just crazy in that. And then my third is probably the Hoopa movie. I know some people get annoyed by Hoopa, but just seeing all those legendaries fight like that is just absolutely crazy. You guys know I love the fight scenes and stuff, so those are probably my top 3. And last question is from @Roughnecked. What if one day the English quality control becomes like the Japanese one with like a 90% PSA 10 gem rate? What would that mean for the sealed and singles market? So it wouldn't really do much for the sealed, but it would potentially make all of our older cards much more rare in a PSA 10. Because if every new card that comes out is super common in a PSA 10, all these older ones, even with some of these cards that have crazy high PSA 10 pops, would technically become pretty rare compared to these newer cards, which is just so easy to get in a 10. And then I also have a feeling it'll kind of hurt the graded market for these newer cards where not nearly as many people are going to be going crazy for the 10 just because it's so common. But I definitely feel like it would make the lower pop cards go even crazier. But alright, that was today's Pokemon What If Wednesday. If you guys do like this content, please make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a like and comment. If you guys want to support more, you can check out my Instagram, my TikTok, or my YouTube membership. It's only 99 cents a month. But alright, I want you guys to have a great day. And if you guys want to watch my last Pokemon Market Monday, which was a super crazy one, click this video here. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.